Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another Sunday video. Each week on Sunday, what I do is I put out a video talking about the week ahead and talking about trade setups and ideas to think about, or setups that I'm personally interested in possibly taking myself. So today there's a couple things, a couple watch list items I would like to talk about, and very, very important things if you're going to be trading this week to keep in mind, which is exactly what we do in these videos each week. So real quick, before we get too far in, let me remind you to hit that like button down below if you like these kind of videos, and subscribe if you're new to the channel for more free trading content. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is this guy right here. There was a big response in markets last week to the concerns around a new possible variant coming out of South Africa. And more specifically, this variant is scary because apparently it kind of supersedes some of the vaccine's effects, which is, kind of scary because we've seen what can happen to markets when, this little guy gets busy and can cause shutdowns and slowdowns and, all sorts of stuff that none of us really want to see more of. But if that happens, that is something to keep a watch list on. It's important to keep these things in mind because they can have huge effects on markets. What could that mean for markets like the US dollar, the S&P 500, the dollar, things like that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So stay tuned until the end of this video. We'll talk about all of these markets, or at least I'll do my best to do all of them. We're going to make sure to hit things like gold, the euro, the pound, the dollar, and the Aussie. So feel free to skip ahead if you would like, but we will go one at a time now. Before I get too far into the video, this is the last chance to do our Black Friday sale. We are officially going to be ending it at the end of November. So this is your chance. If you've been meaning to join our VIP service and see the trades being shared by myself and our other top traders, you can see every trade we take, full breakdowns, reasoning behind it. You can get access to the coaching webinars that we do, which allow you to ask questions to our friend Ivan, who is our experienced educator in the VIP section. And then also you can see all of our strategies. So if you'd like to see the trades that I'm taking, but also see why, we break down everything. And we also include a PDF version of our strategies for you to download and use, or at least to learn from, right? And then also you get access, if you like MT4, we have trading tools and a Forex robot available, both of which you get as a member with this gold VIP option. And then finally, the live chat room that you can access to, which means you can see and talk to traders from around the world, which is really, really cool. So again, that's 40% off, and the link is down below in the description, so don't miss it. Again, it's the best sale of the entire year. So if you've had any interest in joining, now is your chance to sign up. And best part, it's a one-time fee. So you're in and you don't have to pay again. You can just hang out with us, come in, ask questions, hang out with people, meet people, all that good stuff. So again, take advantage of the sale while it's there. Down below in the description, 40% off using that code. And the link is the first link down below in the description to join the Discord. So let's start with a couple things. So COVID, the first thing I want to say about this is nothing new. Markets are used to this stuff. They're used to sudden concerns around this situation now. And so what we saw is a big sell-off on the dollar. Here's your 4-hour view of the dollar, right? The dollar came down pretty hard, pretty quick. Right. We saw, this US dollar responding to this with, we had several weeks of strong dollar positiveness, and then bam, a drop to the downside there with that concern making its way to the surface. Now, this kind of makes sense. The dollar tends to be sort of a soft risk on currency, meaning that during times of, improvement and growth, the dollar tends to do decently. And during times of concern, we can see drops like this. Now, with that being said, this honestly still is in the context of a very strong upward move. And we're going to have to make sure to pay attention to the data coming out around that situation because, it has implications to possibly drop this thing further, or it may just be a pullback opportunity as markets are a little bit resilient to this now. So in my view, if I'm looking at the dollar and I'm remaining bullish, which I am for now, I'm looking at levels that could be of interest. Some levels that stick out to me are levels like this, where you have a little bit move back down to 95.5, which was that stubborn, let's see if I can clear this up a little bit. That stubborn level that we've seen hold a couple different times, right? 95.2 here, right? Nice little ledge there. So a couple areas to think about. If price does get retracing further and you're looking for a discount on the dollar, maybe a move back down to 95.5 or even 95.2. Those levels could be of interest for possible buy zones, but again, it may be a little bit before we see a return right back to the highs. When this is the first time we've seen the dollar drop out of favor by a pretty substantial amount. And if we draw a simple trend line, you can kind of see that you had this breakout to the downside. So to be fair to the sellers, there was a pretty significant drop there on the dollar, showing some strength to the downside for the time being, which may follow through into this week where we may see price make its way further and maybe even tap into some of those longer term demand zones that I mentioned I may be interested in looking for opportunities in. Now, I'm not going to be trading the DXY, but I do like to use it as a point of reference. And now I'll go take a look at some of the other individual currency pairs. We will come to gold, but let's start with EURUSD here, just because we are on the topic of the dollar specifically. We'll take a look at this and see what had happened last week. So here's your 4-hour view, very similar to DXY, just sort of inverted, right? You have that downtrend and bam, little breakout there last week, showing some strength to the upside for the time being. Now, a couple levels that stick out in terms of resistance points. You do have 1.1365, let's call it, and then you also have 1.1450, let's say, this area up here as a possible resistance point. And if you draw some fibs, a little bit higher time frame, but you do have some interesting confluence up there at the 38.2 and the 61.8. So both of those levels look interesting to me. If you're sort of an aggressive seller, maybe there's some opportunities up in those zones if we see price extend itself up to that point. And again, I think that that's very possible with the key break of that downward trend line. This movement was very, very, very sharp, right? We saw a very aggressive selling on things like the euro dollar and the pound dollar. So it makes sense that now we've got a little bit of a breakout and there may be some room for that to pull back a substantial amount. If not the 38.2, maybe even all the way up to that 61.8. Could it reverse and just completely go all the other way? Sure. That's why I would probably use a stop loss if I intended on taking a sell trade. Let's say I sold here, right? With a stop loss somewhere around here. And let's say price just blew past it, right? And then came up to that 61.8. In my case, what I often do is I take like a second attempt. So for example, let's say that this gets hit. Maybe I readjust and then I find another reason to enter and I enter right here. Now, in many cases, that second trade is pretty good, right? And we could see it drop and make some money. But what if it just keeps going? Well, repeat the concept. Stop out, take a small loss, and move on. Right. So that's how I'm approaching things like this. I don't know with certainty whether or not a level is going to hold. I don't predict the future. I can't do that. I haven't learned how to do that just yet. I'm working on it, but maybe someday I'll be able to predict the future. But most likely, scenarios is what I'm striving for. I'm going for places where I think, okay, solid chance that sellers could get interested. If they are, I'll try and cash out on it. If they don't, if they aren't interested, I'll look to basically take minimal damage on the account. That's the idea. So a couple levels to think about going into this week. I'll keep those on the watch list for sure. Next up is pound dollar. We'll take a look at GBPUSD here and see what's going on with the pound. So the pound has been really weak. Like we've seen this one just get absolutely beaten down. And you can kind of see it's an ugly trend line, but depending on how you draw it, you do have some ways to go there on the pound dollar. And again, depends how you draw it. You could draw this trend line, in which case we've broken and now just trailed back and hugged it from the upper limits, but not the cleanest trend line either way. I think it's a little bit tough to draw a simple trend line on that. But if we look at the moving averages, for example, you do have a pretty solid trending down market, right? We entered into this period where we had some consolidation, moving averages weren't clear, but then we broke out of that to the downside here and all moving averages lining up again, showing just a really strong sell-off to the downside still. Now, if this thing follows the pattern of the euro dollar, if we think that the euro dollar is headed back up, or not necessarily headed back up, but at least has room to pull back further, it's not out of the question that we could see pound dollar retrace further, which in that case, as a dollar bull, I might be interested in picking up short opportunities as price retraces to try and catch that next wave lower. If it happens, that would be great. If it doesn't happen, again, we'll take minimal loss by keeping a stop on that trade. That's the idea with my trend following approach. And so with that said, that is pretty much everything I've got on the pound dollar. For example, we could get a little bit more specific. We could grab some fibs here and look for opportunities, but this is honestly going to rely on me waiting to see what ends up happening with price. Because if we just chop around for a little while and then jump up to here, that could be the 38.2. If we go straight up, right, it's possible that the 61.8 could come into play, and that could be the sell zone. So that's why, I talk about these ideas conceptually, but I kind of actually make up decisions in real time. And like I said earlier, if I take any trades, I drop them in Discord for the members in there to see why I'm doing what I'm doing, and the full breakdown with every trade. So if I do take a trade, you guys will see it in there. Let's talk about a trade that I actually am in right now. We'll take a look at AUDUSD here. This trade has been just phenomenal. This is one of the better trades that I've taken in the last few weeks. This thing doesn't move a whole lot, right? AUDUSD is not a currency pair that moves that much. But if you take a look at the 1 hour chart, you can see that this thing has just presented so many great trading opportunities really in a row for my particular style of trading. We got a pullback here, right? Price sold off, came back. I stopped out there, right? Entered again up here. Price came all the way down, then shot back up, and I closed out for break even. So nothing super there, but continued the process. Sold here. You can see my little order. I actually trade on TradingView, so you can see I'm logged into my broker here. And so I have trades on TradingView. That's why you can see them. Not all brokers offer that. So if you're going to ask me about that, just go over to Oanda and go to the trading panel, and you can see if your broker is supported, etc. But anyways, yeah, so price popped up again, was able to catch that sell, and again closed out for a profit on the retracement. Sold it here, and now we are sitting on a really, really long distance win. I mean, this is a trade that I've been in for a long time. Since the 15th of November, it is now the 28th of November. So I'm currently floating at the time of making this. I'm floating around 220 pips, which, doesn't sound like that much, but when you're talking about AUD/USD on a swing trade, that's a huge number because this currency pair tends to move so few pips every day. If you're looking at gold would be 220 pips would just be like this much movement right on the screen. But for AUD/USD, that's a significant number of pips. So where I'm at with this is I sold up here. I'm holding on to this trade and I'm just letting it run. I actually tightened my stop pretty tight, just putting it above structure here last week because, as this thing continues to stretch lower, I do expect some form of aggressive bounce. After aggressive moves to the downside, there are often big swings back up as volatility tends to expand there and then shoots back the other way at some point. I don't know when that's going to be. That's why I have a stop loss trailed. So if price does decide to break out, then I will stop out and, hopefully maybe even get a chance to re-enter again. Speaking of opportunities to re-enter, I'm not going to rush AUD/USD anymore because I do feel like the majority of this move has probably run its course. So if I look at this thing on the 4 hour chart, for example, actually may even be better to look at this thing on the daily chart here for a second. So let's do this 1 day. And, you can kind of see the sell-off has been so aggressive. Those are daily bars. That's probably, like I said, is one of the better moves that I've seen on my account in quite a while. We are tapping into an area that I'm really, really keen on watching. So as we look at AUD/USD, for those guys who are already members and may have taken this trade with me, the idea here being, if price breaks out and keeps going, then absolutely fantastic. We may see really, really fresh lows that we haven't seen in a long time. But because this level is such a significant level of support historically, there is that chance that we see a big reversal back up. Is that a guarantee? No. Is that a certainty? No. Is it even close to a certainty? Not really. That's not how markets work. My idea, though, is that I have locked in the trade in a worst case scenario where price reverses and I would still be able to close out a significant amount of profit off of this move. So I'm in a good spot. I would like to see price break out, but if it doesn't, if it can't break this level, which, very solid chance we could see a bounce. If that bounce happens, I will go ahead and lock in my profit and look for an opportunity to re-enter, maybe on a further retracement. Now, the thing is, this thing is so overextended to the downside, which is fine. I'm happy with that because that's how I'm sometimes these overextended moves are the best moves in the whole world if you're on the right side of them. But they can stay overextended for a long time. So I'm not really willing to sell into this, but I am willing to hold a position that is doing quite well. So as we go into this week, I'm watching to see if price can break through that level. Then again, like I said, I will just take my profits. And if price drops further into this new week, I will continue to trail stops. So great spot to be in. Not complaining at all. Let's take a quick look at USD Jpy and see what's going on with the dollar yen, which dropped off big time in response to the pandemic fears. Whenever we get those big news related articles about, hey, there's a new strand or whatever, it's concerning to markets for good reason, because if it has, the potential to shut down economies for a while, it can really disrupt the supply line, cause stocks to come down, things like that. So dollar yen, we see that happening across the board. The yen getting stronger, people buying into that yen as it tends to offer a risk off favoring condition, meaning people buy the yen when they're concerned about markets. So we saw the yen get strong, which, kind of makes sense off of that principle, and a big drop on the dollar yen. Big drop. So if we're looking at the 4-hour chart, this thing selling off, like I mentioned, same thing on the DXY, it really broke a trend line that was pretty significant. You had this big break underneath that trend line. And now the question is, where do we buy it? Well, I don't know. I'm not rushing to buy this, because until we see further development on the whole situation, if you will, I'm not going to rush to try and jump in front of this thing, because I can show you guys a couple of important times on this chart that may be a little eye-opening to you. Here's the initial scare around what. You could see the drop on dollar yen was super aggressive. Sure, there was a recovery as people went back into the dollar, but remember that these drops can be very aggressive. And so if that were to drop again like that, it could be a several day movement to the downside. And so I don't really want to jump in front of that just yet. I'd wait to see if we could see some form of rounding out, if we can see some find of support or some further news that may, sort of dissuade people from being so afraid. So that's kind of my concept there with the dollar yen. I do like the idea of being long on it, but I'm not going to force it. It did drop a significant distance from that 115.5 level. It dropped a total of 210 pips or so in one day. That's pretty aggressive. We're somewhere in that area. That's a big pip drop in one single day. We haven't seen those sort of drops in a while. So, something to at least pay attention to and keep on the radar. So I like it long, but I'd like to see some form of a bounce first. I'd like to see it find support before trying to jump to conclusions, because again, this week could be really ugly. We could see this thing continue to drop. So just want to be prepared for that. So let's go back to our initial thing and make sure we've done everything. So we did Aussie dollar, we did dollar yen, pound dollar, euro dollar. We have not talked about gold. So let's take a look at gold here now to talk about this recent stuff going on. So gold sold off big time. And that's kind of confusing to traders sometimes, because it's like, okay, hey, why is gold going down if things are getting scary? Isn't gold a risk off currency? Which, yes, that is true, but what we've seen in recent years is a lot of time gold does not actually go down, or it does go down with stocks. And part of the reason for that, the argument for that, is people are taking money out of their gold to just similar to how the stock market works. They're taking it off because they're unsure and they want to have cash available to them. So that's an argument for that, or maybe even to hold on to their stock portfolios, right? A lot of traders and investors, they keep a portion of their money in gold. And so, if the stock market drops, what they may do is they may readjust by selling some of their gold to keep on to their stocks or buy more stocks, things like that. So we see all sorts of different reactions. But again, the thing to pay attention to, though, is that even though, we saw a big drop back in 2020 off of gold, right? We saw back in, here's 20, that's way far, right here, right? 2020, we saw the drop, and then we saw the rally, right? This drop on stocks was way worse and took way longer to recover. Gold was just a quick drop and then it rallied. So if we see something similar to that, if we do see market concerns stay valid, there may be a rally on gold coming. You may see a big drop followed by, similar to the last time, a very strong outperformance in gold as people flock to it as more of that safe haven investment. So it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit confusing, and it's confusing to me, not going to lie, as well. But I do have a generally bullish case for gold, especially if we can see a breakout of some of these key levels that we seem to really struggle at. We struggled for a long time after we at 1830. We did get the breakout, but then with this fresh news, it dropped gold back down underneath. If we start to see gold rally, there may be just a continuation of that concept if this news gets sort of put behind us. So we'll have to watch for that going forward. In terms of levels to buy or anything like that, for me personally, I'm not rushing to buy gold. I would really like to see this thing break out again and look for opportunities to buy it. And I didn't actually end up buying any gold. I really thought about doing it, but I wanted to sort of, after we got the news around, the situation again, I kind of was like, okay, let me just wait a second. Let me, because the moves, when they really happen on gold, you can be sort of late and still completely catch some great moves, right? You don't have to try and buy the low here. You can actually look for it to round out. And if a good trend comes along, it has plenty of opportunities to take advantage. So, like I said, when looking at gold here on the daily chart, when we're looking at this thing, I would love to see this thing break out to go higher on the higher time frame for a swing trade, that sort of thing. Now, if you're looking at the 4-hour chart, we do seem to have some support here at 1785 or so, give or take. It does seem like we do have some demand in that general region. If you're looking at this thing closer, lower time frame, maybe a breakout there could be an opportunity to start trying looking for that walking staircase back up if you have a bullish scenario or bullish outlook on gold. If you think gold is headed higher, watch for the breakout there at 1810. 1810 does seem to be another significant level of resistance on that lower time frame basis. So if you're out here and you're trading gold, 1-hour chart, 4-hour chart, things like that, maybe keep an eye on 1810. If we can break that level, maybe there's some opportunities for break and retest opportunities and setups to the long side. Now, of course, please remember, as always, this is not financial advice. This is not me telling you to go take these trades or anything like that. It's down below in the description for a reason. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. I'm sharing my thoughts and opinions on YouTube. Now, before I go, remember, guys, that sale, that Black Friday sale, it is ending soon, and this is the opportunity to join us for the cheapest price. If you like what I do here on YouTube, if you want more from me and from our team here at A1 Trading, we've got like 10 people put together to build the best community in Forex. I'm not blowing out of proportions. I'm not exaggerating. I truly believe that there is not a better service out there. If you're looking for a community to join, something that helps you learn, benefits you, and you can see real traders taking real trades and complete breakdowns with every single trade. That is really the service that we offer. It's not an easy service to run, but it is something that we have found a lot of success with and met traders from all over the world. We have, for example, that those trade alerts. You can see all the trades that I'm taking, but we also have a gentleman named Ryan. He's living in Dubai, and he is a 200K FTMO funded trader, meaning that he's got a 200K account that he's earned through his trading skills, and he shares what he's doing. So if you'd like to see from pro traders what we're up to, this is the chance to do so for the best price of the entire year. So again, the link is down below in the description. Hit that link. Join us. This week should be really awesome. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And truthfully, the trades have been really hitting it recently. So we'll see if we can keep the heat streak up on that end. And then also, of course, as always, the educational value and conversations that are priceless. So with that said, guys, thank you very much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel down below. And we will see you back next time.